I never learned how to hit curvy balls. Even when I played baseball in college, I tried to choose and beat only straight balls. By the rotation of the seams, it was possible to distinguish one from the other. I was known to be a good straight ball hitter, so my professional career did not work out. But I received a good education. It came in handy because I would probably be out of professional sports in a couple of years. A good education always bears fruit. For me, for sure. 25 years after graduation and 15 years of working in my specialty, I got my dream job. I became a tenured professor in the engineering school of a large university in Texas, consulted on large government construction projects, and directed one of NIST's manufacturing labs. Tessa and I bought our dream home in that gated community we had always dreamed of, and life threw me straight curvy balls. I was sending them out for a home run. Our oldest daughter, Tori, went to the same university as me and studied structural engineering, just like her old man. My life was in an iron grip, and the light began to go out. Then the curveball arrived. At first, I didn't recognize him. I didn't even realize the ball was already in play. It came in the form of a call from Tori. "Dad, what's going on?" she asked. Nothing special," I replied. "I'm just surfing the internet." "What do you have, my love?" "I came home to get your jack," she said. "There was a truck parked there. I walked in and my mom was there, supervising the movers. She said she was moving out, that you had problems with her and you needed time to be apart. Why didn't you say anything?" I was stunned. "Ha ha, good joke, Tori." I finally managed to get out. "Dad, this is not a joke," she said. "What's happening?" "Jesus Christ." "I have no idea," I said. "Are you sure, baby? This isn't a joke." "Dad, I'm here. I'm watching. You need to come here. I don't know what's going on, and Mom doesn't tell me anything. Did you do something?" It was a damn weird question. I may have done a lot of things, but I had no idea of the something that could make Tessa leave. I was not an ideal husband. I knew all my shortcomings well, but she was not an ideal wife either. Nobody is perfect. I certainly wasn't a cheater. I wasn't a criminal. I didn't gain 300 pounds, and as far as I knew, I didn't have terrible body odor. I asked my graduate students to cover for me in class and exceeded the speed limit the entire way home. There it was, a truck that pulled into our driveway, just as Tori said. She met me outside. "She doesn't say anything," she said. "You really don't know?" "No, honey, I don't know. She didn't say a word to me about any problems." "Well, Dad, if you didn't cheat on her or be cruel to her or some crap, I'm on your side, okay?" "I promise I didn't do anything like that," I told her. I sighed. "Let's go see if she'll talk. Are you sure you want to be here?" "Of course," she said. "Dad, I'll be recording this on my phone. Talita will be interested to know what happened." Talitha was her little sister, our baby. I gave Tori a quick hug, and we went to meet the lion, so to speak. Tessa was in the living room directing the movers who were packing up the ugly living room set she supposedly couldn't live without. "Tess, what are you doing?" I asked. "I'm leaving you, Dax," she said. "I don't want to argue with you. You can't convince me otherwise. It will only make you angry, which will make me angry, and nothing good will come of it." "Gee, Mom," Tori said. "I hate to tell you this, but I'm already angry." "No, I guess I'm not. Unless you want to push me away completely, I suggest you try to make us both understand what the hell you think you're doing." Damn, she was angry. Tori was the sweetest girl on the planet, but as I learned over the years, she had a temper if she felt she had been wronged. She almost never swore. I could see that Tessa understood it too. She gave a couple more instructions to the movers and took Tori's hand. "Let's go out onto the terrace," she said. Tori pulled her hand away, but we followed Tessa onto the terrace. She closed the sliding door and seemed to collect her thoughts. "I met someone." Finally, she spoke. "You don't know him. He moved here from New Mexico about 6 months ago and is a real estate developer. I'm going to be with him. I couldn't just cheat, so I'm leaving. I already filed for divorce, Dax. Well, that's news, I said. You couldn't just cheat, huh? So, you met yesterday, fell in love at first sight, and immediately realized that you were made for each other, right? Tori snorted. That's right. It always happens. Mom, who do you take us for? I don't think. Tori interrupted her. You're a real estate agent, Mom. You don't have to account for your time. How many nasty dates, dinners, showings with Romeo have you already been on? This is wrong. It was my turn. Yes, that's true. You didn't just accidentally decide to leave your husband and start a relationship with your betrothed. How did you know that you were destined for each other? Okay, think what you want, she said. You can make something cheap out of this if you want. You don't have to make anything out of it, Tori said. This is cheap. I understand that you are betraying Dad, and this is between you. What do you think will happen to me? Or to Talita, by the way? I love you both. Honey, that won't change, Tessa was quick to reassure her. I still love you. Dax, it's just... She couldn't finish. That's how you claim to feel about me, Tori said. How do you think I will feel about you? How do you think Talitha will feel? I know you're upset, Tessa began. You'll have to accept that nothing will change in our relationship. Tori, you'll love Charles once you get to know him. I'm not going to meet him, Tori said sharply. I don't need to deal with some asshole who interferes with a married woman's family. I'll tell Talita too. Our attitude has already changed. All the respect I ever had for you is gone. I'm going to see you very rarely. If you ever bring that bastard to me, I'll spit on him. Tori, I know. You don't know anything, Tori snapped. I've never been so disappointed in a person in my life. You ruined everything. God, how I hate you, Mom. Tessa looked at me helplessly. Dax. Don't look at me, I told her. It is your fault. I think she began to realize the magnitude of her action as she looked from one of us to the other. Tori grabbed my hand. Come on, Dad. I don't want to be anywhere near that Skankenstein. Tessa screamed at the evil nickname her daughter had given her, but I was already being dragged down the terrace steps by my very angry daughter. She practically dragged me to her car and helped me sit down, even opening the door for me. I felt like I was in slow motion. Talk about shock. I was a complete idiot, apparently. Tori sat down, started the car, and looked at me. Dad, you'll be okay, she said. I know you're confused right now, but I've made it my mission to make sure, in the near future, that the man in my life who I love the most gets through this and is happy. Now, the belt is the law. I buckled up, and it felt good. Tori has always ridden like crazy, and now she's adding some extra oomph to her riding. When she received her bachelor's degree, we asked what she wanted for her graduation gift. She wanted a car, and a specific one, a 2017 Audi R8 V10 Plus Spider. We could afford it, and she deserved it. She worked hard and graduated second in her class, was accepted into graduate school, and we were very proud of her. As always when I rode with her, I held on to everything I could. Damn, baby, I complained. You'll kill me, and you won't have to worry about the near future. She laughed, as always, and did not slow down. We were about 10 miles from the apartment she shared with Talita, and I know we got there in less than 10 minutes. The girls were the complete opposite. Not in appearance, in that they were almost twins, but in character. It always amazes me how two children with the same parents, raised in the same house, can be so different. Tori was always energetic, always ahead, always talking, and she literally sparkled with energy. Talitha was quiet, very affectionate, extremely gentle, and the only time you saw her have the same energy as Tori was in sports. She played softball and was a dynamo on the field. Both looked like their mother, but with my skin and height. Tori was an ash blonde with beautiful straight hair that fell to her waist, and Talitha was a strawberry blonde with silky waves just below her jaw. They were gorgeous, olive skin contrasting with their hair and blue eyes. I knew I was biased, but my opinion was confirmed by the boys who had circled around them all their lives. They had been dating, but had not yet seemed interested in any particular man to the detriment of others. Talitha was at home, and she screamed when she saw me, slid onto the sofa, and patted me next to her, inviting me to sit. "Hey, Dad, what are you doing here?" She hugged me and pressed herself to my side, while Tori took an identical position on the other side. "Hi, dear." I kissed her on the cheek, which she offered me. It was one hell of a day. "About?" Her huge blue eyes looked up at me. "What's happened?" "You won't believe it," Tori said. "I'm sorry, sis, but do you know how I went to get Daddy's Jack?" Talitha nodded. "When I arrived, Mom was at home, and there was a truck in the driveway. She told me she was leaving Dad and moving out." "What?" Talitha was stunned. It was clear. "You're kidding, right?" I hugged her tighter. "I'm afraid not, baby." "What did you do?" she asked. I was a little offended by this question. Tori asked the same thing. Why did they think I did something bad? "He didn't do anything," Tori said quickly. "It's all Mom. She met someone, some Charles, who she knows we'll love." "What? How? Are you sure? Maybe you misunderstood something." Tori interrupted her. "I knew you'd say that. I wrote it down." She took out her phone and played the audio recording for Talitha. Again, the reactions were the complete opposite. Talitha started crying, and by the time the drama was over, she was sobbing, breaking her little heart. Tori moved to her other side, and we formed a Talitha sandwich, holding and petting her as she poured out her broken heart. I also felt tears rolling down my cheeks, and Tori also wiped her eyes. What are you going to do, Dad?" Talitha was finally able to speak. "I have no idea," I said. "What can I do? She's moving out. I can't force her to stay. I'm not sure I'd want to do that even if I could at this point." "Talitha, what are you going to do?" Tori asked. "I'm going to talk to Mom," she said. "I know you heard it from her. I need to hear it myself. I know the tape doesn't lie. If she tells me the same thing she tells you, I'll be so mad that I'm already angry. I'll also be incredibly sad." I hugged her again, kissing the top of her head. "I know, doll. I'm still in shock." "Well, I'm not," Tori said. "Dad, you need to talk to a lawyer. Defend yourself." "Jesus, Tori, listen to yourself," Talitha said. "Protect myself? This is the Mom we're talking about." "So, Mom, the woman we've known all our lives, suddenly decides she needs someone better than Dad, gets into a relationship with some shady guy, and you think she's incapable of any other shenanigans?" Tori said. I understand what you mean," Talitha said. "This seems like it's from some TV series, Tori." "I know, sis. It is, but we need to deal with it." "Is she still at home?" Talitha asked. "As far as I know," I replied. "I have no idea how long she'll be there." Talitha stood up. "I'll go there and talk to her," she said. "Meet me for dinner." We agreed on a place and time. She grabbed her bag and left. Tori moved to sit next to me, and I hugged her. We sat in silence for several minutes, each lost in our own thoughts. "Dad, do you know any lawyers?" she asked. I came out of my reverie. Yeah, I guess I do. I don't know anyone who does stuff like that. Really?" "Call someone you trust. Ask them to recommend someone," she said. I couldn't believe it had come to this. A few hours ago, I was full, stupid, and happy. Now I was talking about calling a divorce lawyer. It was a real curveball, and it had a hard hook. I did know a lot of very influential lawyers. Some of them were my colleagues at university, and I even knew some government lawyers. Tori and I brainstormed, came up with a name, and he actually recommended a few names, one in particular. Her name was Amanda Sloan, and I spoke with someone in her office, made an appointment, and was given a list of what I needed to do and bring to the meeting. I needed to gather all the necessary paperwork at home, so Tori drove me home. She packed bags for both herself and Talitha and informed me that they would be living with me for the near future. I argued that they didn't need it, but she insisted. I knew better than to argue with her once she had made up her mind about something. I needed to gather all the financial information, and she helped me. I was working on investment accounts and gave her the login information for our bank account. Dad, you won't believe this, she said. What, honey? You have $50 in your checking account and $1,000 in the money market, she said. Is this enough to keep you from falling below the minimum? What? Yes, I think that's the minimum, I said. But we must have much more. Mom must have started making some very unpleasant moves, she said. Are you going to be okay? Yeah, I'll have to move some money, open a few other accounts, I guess. I have money at the credit union that she doesn't have access to, and I'll probably use it. That's pretty cruel, Tori. Really? I think it's kind of illegal, Dad. I don't think it's going to end well for her. You'll have to ask your lawyer. We met Talitha for dinner, and she was quite shocked by her conversation with her mother. I needed to hear it from her, she said. I'm sorry, and I knew you were telling the truth, but some things need to be heard for yourself. You're not mad at me, are you? No, baby, I understand, I told her. Tori hugged her. I probably wouldn't have believed it either if I hadn't been there, she said. What are you going to do, Tully? Mom's dream is for you and me to meet Charles, she said. We'll love him. I told her that I wasn't even going to date Chucky Boy, and that I didn't really want to see her either. She lied to you. About what? Tori asked. She cheated. I made her tell me. I told her that if she lied to me, I would find out and I wouldn't talk to her anymore. She was dating this guy. I'm sorry, Dad, but I don't want to have to deal with her anymore. Don't apologize to me, I said. Damn, well now we know. I don't want to deal with her either. This was not the whole truth. I was definitely not okay and my feelings were a complete mess, grief, sadness, confusion, whatever you want to call it. But the main thing was anger. I was incredibly angry and everything else faded into the background. I got lucky with my lawyer. Tori and Talitha took me to her and waited for me. Amanda Sloan was an intense woman of few words. She would have scared me to death if she hadn't been on my side, and she was. In 2 days, she filed for divorce, got a restraining order on our finances, and a court order for Tessa to pay back every cent she took. Neither of us could transfer or spend money or move assets except for normal daily expenses. This made Tessa call me. Why are you making this so difficult, Dax? Where am I making it difficult? I asked. You. I don't want to discuss this over the phone, she said. I will come. She seemed a little shocked to see Tori and Talitha. Girls, why are you here? She asked. I wanted to talk to your father alone. We live here, Talitha said. We don't want Daddy to be alone, Tori informed her. Don't worry, we'll leave now that you're here. They grabbed their bags and left without another word to Tessa, who seemed to want to say something but decided not to. You said you wanted to talk, I reminded her. What did you want to say? She sat down opposite me at the bar and sighed. Dax, I don't want this to be any harder than it needs to be. I still love you. I just need to be with Charles. We can be friends. We have daughters who need both parents. I have nothing to do with your relationships with girls, I told her. You'll have to decide that. Friends? I don't think so. Tessa, I don't have friends who treat me like you. Hell, I don't even have enemies like you. Why did you get a restraining order? She asked. I was just taking money to get settled and pay moving expenses. Well, half of that money was mine, I told her. Maybe even more, but so be it. You have a job. Tessa, you make good money. Yes, but you have credit union accounts from your job, she said. Yes, and you didn't put a penny in it, I told her. While we were together, Everything was ours. Now I need to think about yours and mine. Let the court sort it out. I thought you said Chucky Boy was a big player. She grimaced. Stop acting like a child, Dax. His name is Charles. Do you have any idea that I care what you think? I asked. I will call him, and you, whatever I want. Is that all you wanted to say? No, that's not all. I want to talk about girls. What did you tell them? I didn't say anything, I replied. Tori was here, remember? She recorded your speech and played it back to Tala. They both only spoke to you. You should have told them something, she said. They wouldn't be so angry if you didn't say anything. Listen to yourself, I said. Oh my God, Tessa, you blew us all away. They're smarter than both of us. They don't need me to tell them anything. They see what you did. How long did this go on? Tessa, why didn't you ever say that you are unhappy with me? With us? We could try to fix it. She looked a little thoughtful. I wasn't unhappy, she said. Have you ever met someone who immediately seemed important to you? Did you know that you were attracted to this person? Like two magnets that are drawn to each other? Yes, I knew, I told her. I met you. She couldn't look at me. Can we just move on, Dax? It doesn't have to be this bitter, angry thing. We can still be friends. We've loved each other for too long to throw it all away. We could, I said. The problem is, I don't want to be your friend anymore, Tessa. In fact, I'd rather never see you again. This is a big city. Once the divorce is finalized, I doubt I'll ever have a reason to again talk to you. It's not like that, she said. The girls will have events, graduations, games for Talitha, weddings. Life goes on, Dax. I guess so, I said. I'll do what I have to do. I'm still the same, she said. You always loved me. No, you're not, I replied. At least if you're like that, then I never really knew you. I'm done here. You can leave. No, I'd rather leave. Lock the door behind me. I grabbed the keys and jumped into my Jeep. I drove to the river and parked, got out and just leaned on the front, trying to find calm, trying to find my center. I was there for maybe half an hour and a voice brought me out of my thoughts. Hello, Father. It was Talitha. Hello, doll. How did you find me? Come on, we have a family location app on our phones, she said. You insisted on this, remember? I laughed. Yeah, I remember now. I don't think I've used it since you were about 17. She pressed herself close to me, taking my hand and placing my arm on her shoulders, comforting me. It's beautiful here, isn't it? She said. I love just looking at the river, listening to the ducks. Yes, I agreed. Well, I don't want to disturb your thoughts, but what did Mom say? She asked. I sighed. She just wanted to know why I made her pay the money back. She wants us to remain friends. I told her I mostly didn't want to, but she said we have to be together at events involving you and Tori, so I better get used to it. She was silent for a minute. I don't think you have anything to worry about, she finally said. Tori and I have talked a lot. Neither of us are going to invite her to our events, Dad. I hugged her tighter. Are you sure, doll? She nodded. Her hair slid forward on her face. Yes, I'm sure. It's not something I'm going to forgive, Dad. I see. Let's call Tori and see if she wants to join us for dinner at a Mexican restaurant, I suggested. She agreed, but Tori couldn't come. There was a project at the university, so we went together. Everything was quite predictable. Everyone knows people who have experienced divorce, if they have not experienced it themselves. We have heard stories, even if we never thought it would happen to us. There were many meetings, back and forth. We finally worked out all the details, and the divorce moved forward. The girls stayed with me for 2 weeks before I insisted they move back to their apartment. They both objected, loudly, but I needed them to rebuild their lives, get back to how they were before. Listen, I told them. I would be happy if you both just lived here for the rest of my life. I never wanted you to leave, But you did. I understood why then, and I understand now too. Things have changed for me, but not for you. You have your own lives. I hope there will always be a place for me in them, but I want you to be yourself. Do you understand? Yes, Dad, Talitha said. We don't want you to be lonely. Call me. Stop by any time. Tell me you want to go out to dinner. Ask me to do something with you. Do what you've always done. They hesitated a bit, and I hugged them goodbye for a long time. I understand, Dad, Tori said. I know you're right. They really continued to include me in their lives, and the day the divorce was made official, they came back and stayed with me for another week. I didn't know what was going on between them and their mother, and they never mentioned her. I kept myself busy, took on a few extra projects and more one course. I missed being married, having someone to have dinner with in the evening, someone to take care of, someone to do little things for. When I woke up at night and wanted to cuddle with my wife, the empty bed usually woke me up completely, and the sadness was suffocating. Over time, I got better. A year later, I realized this. Then 2 years passed. Tori received her master's degree and was working on her doctorate. Talita received her bachelor's degree and stopped working for a while study. She got a job at a mortgage company and seemed to be making progress. Tessa intruded into our lives from time to time. She came to Talita's graduation and bothered everyone. She overheard the girls saying that we were going to celebrate the occasion and insisted on joining us. Mom, are you sure you don't need to rush back to Chucky Boy? Tori said. She frowned and looked like a storm cloud. Charles and I are no longer together, she announced. Oh, that's bad, Talitha said. When did it happen? If you were talking to me, you would know that this happened 18 months ago. We've been busy, Tori said. It was better than most comedy shows. I snorted and Tessa gave me an angry look. We arrived in different cars, so we went to the restaurant we chose for dinner. We were able to get another chair for Tessa, but the girls made it clear that they didn't want her there. She didn't stay long after dinner, and the next day I flew to Tarawa to discuss plans for a resort. I was a consultant on this project and decided to invest in it as a shareholder. It was a beautiful place, great ocean, great beaches, and I decided I was going to spend a lot of time there. I visited a few clubs, met people, danced with some beautiful ladies, got lucky a couple of times and came home refreshed. I decided it was time to come out of my shell and start living again. I had an idea to go back to California for vacation. I was born and raised there, and I wanted to look at the old places, see how they had changed, maybe meet some of the people I went to school with and find out how their lives turned out. I invited the girls, but they had too much to do to find time. We had a motorhome, and I decided to take it. We toted a small Jeep Wrangler behind it to get around, and I serviced everything, stocked up on everything I needed, and hit the road. It was fun. I stayed at campsites, attended events there, and met a lot of people, mostly couples, who were doing the same thing. It was a little sad being alone, but that's the way it was. It took me 3 weeks to get there because of all the stops, but I found a spot, settled in, unhitched the Wrangler, and was ready to see the sights. I spent 3 days driving around Ventura, Santa Barbara, and Ojai. The places have changed, but not so much that I can't find my way around. I was sitting outside at the Coffee Connection on Rambler, Fohio, was looking through the newspaper and noticed a slight commotion. Some Karen tried to go inside without a mask. Yes, they were annoying, but I thought after 2 damn years everyone knew the rules. Several people were waiting to enter, but Karen did not leave. One woman walked around to the tables in despair. She sat down and took out her phone. I assumed she was waiting for the situation to calm down. She looked very familiar. I knew I had seen her before, but I couldn't remember where. It dawned on me when Karen finally left and the woman came in for coffee. It was at that moment when I saw her walking that memories surfaced in my memory. Jacinta de Leon, I remembered her now. How could I forget? She moved to Ojai when I was in 3rd grade. Of course, I wasn't particularly interested in girls back then, but she was seated at a desk in the next row, right across from me, and she met my gaze as she walked back to her seat. I will never forget her eyes large, dark, almost black. She smiled at me, her snow-white teeth sparkling, lighting up her face. I was no longer the same. My attitude towards girls has changed dramatically. She, have become magical. She handed me a note as we worked on an assignment. It was just hello and her name. I wrote my name on another piece of paper. I wanted to keep the one she gave me. We had one break, and I was drawn to her like a magnet. I had a soccer ball, and we kicked it around the court. She played soccer better than me, and it stayed that way. She was the most athletic girl I had ever met, played soccer all through school, and I was fascinated. It turned out that she lived only 3 blocks from me, and my house was behind hers. We walked home together every day, and she became my best friend. Throughout high school, we sat together in the cafeteria every day, tried to coordinate our schedules as much as possible, and by the time we reached high school, I was crazy about Jacinta de Leon. Unfortunately, the feelings were not mutual. I was her best friend, and she kept me in the friend zone. I suffered in silence, too awkward and afraid of ruining what we had to give vent to my feelings. I gritted my teeth when her boyfriend of the month joined us for lunch, watched her dance with everyone at school, even though she always made sure I got a dance or two. One day, we were sitting in my living room playing cribbage, and she asked, "Dax, why don't you have a girlfriend?" I couldn't answer that because I couldn't tell her that the girl I wanted didn't seem to notice me, so I just stuttered, extremely embarrassed. "I'll help you," she announced. "What? How? What do you mean?" I squeezed out with difficulty. "You'll just have to wait and see." She was mysterious, but it soon became clear what was happening. Soon she began introducing me to her friends. She had beautiful friends. Jacinta was the most popular girl in school. My sideways glance doesn't count. She was the queen bee, and all the girls wanted to be her. All the boys just wanted her. As her best friend, I was also the center of attention. Suddenly, I had more dates than most rock stars. I also took advantage of this. I felt like I was dating a class of girls that were out of reach for me. But I was no fool and dated all the time. We remained best friends until she moved to Los Angeles, and I moved to Texas. I haven't seen or heard from her in years. Here she is, and the years have been kind to her. That burning girl turned into a burning woman, but she had something in her aura. You could tell by looking at her that she had everything under control. She was dressed elegantly in a beige, off-the-shoulder outfit that was obviously silk and very stylish. Her black low-heeled shoes showed off her gorgeous legs, which were visible 3 inches above the knee. I watched her scroll through her phone while sipping her coffee when she suddenly stopped. It looked like she could feel my gaze. I quickly looked down at my iPad so she wouldn't think some creepy stalker was looking at her. From the corner of my eye, I saw her looking around, and suddenly there was an enthusiastic squeal. "Oh my God, Dax, it's you." I raised my head and saw her heading towards me. I got up just in time to catch her when she rushed towards me. She almost knocked me off my feet. I remembered that this was her way of greeting when we had not seen each other for a while. I hugged her, swaying a little. "Hey, Peach," I said. That was my nickname for her. She laughed at this, and her delight was almost uncontrollable. "God, Dax, that's like 100 years. What are you doing here? Are you alone? Do you have your family with you? Oh God, I can't believe it's you." My breasts were in danger of being scalded by the coffee which she still held, and I was freed from this predicament. "Sit down before you scald my stomach," I said. She laughed, sat down on the bench, and pulled me next to her, pressing her side to me. I moved my hand around her shoulders, and it seemed as if the years had disappeared. Dax and Jacinta, best friends, as we sat on the bench in the cafeteria in 5th grade. "Why are you here?" she asked again. "How long have you been here? How long are you going to stay?" "Give me a chance, Jacinta," I laughed. You never let me talk. She laughed. Okay, I'll just sit here and you can talk. I have a motor home, I told her. I'm traveling around the country and just wanted to see this area. I've been here for 3 days and I don't have a schedule. But why are you here? Last I heard, you were in Los Angeles. A shadow crossed her face, then disappeared. I came back here 3 years ago, she said. I run a real estate agency here and business is going well. Are you going to stay long? I'd like to catch up. What are you going to do tonight? She hasn't changed one bit. She made me smile, inside and out. I have no plans, I told her. I wake up every morning and decide what I'm going to do that day. Dax, I know you're married and have kids, she said. Is your wife with you? For a moment, I felt a little embarrassed. I'm divorced, Peach. It's a long, boring, painful story. I don't have time for long, boring, painful stories right now. She smiled at me with one of her dazzling smiles. You're inviting me to dinner tonight, she said. I have a show in 20 minutes. Give me your number. I gave her my number, and she immediately sent me a text message. Save me in your contacts, she said. I'll text you the time and my address. Do you only have a motorhome? No, I drive the Jeep, I said. Great, you can drive, she said. I need to run. Dax. God, it's good to see you. I can't wait for tonight. Put on a collared shirt. She stood up, kissed me on the cheek, and quickly left, leaving behind her the scent of her perfume and my thoughts in disarray. She was still the same. If anything has changed, it's that she's even more attractive than she was in high school. She was curvier, and it was obvious that she exercised a lot. And her buttocks, when she left, were simply inviting in the dress she wore. She always gave me a whirlwind of emotions, and that hasn't changed one bit. I was wandering around, looking at the display cases, and I remembered something. Jacinta had always loved turquoise. She collected it the entire time I knew her. I wondered if she was still doing this. I was reminded of this when I walked past a store that sold handmade turquoise and silver. I went in and looked at the goods. The woman who made the jewelry was very talented. There was a heavy silver bracelet with a large stone in it, and it went with fine jewelry work in the form of an ankle bracelet with stones, creating a set. I bought it and asked to package it. I hoped Jacinta was still collecting turquoise. I returned to the RV park, used their facilities, put on black pants and a pink button-down shirt, put on some cologne, and felt as ready as ever. She sent me her address, and I set up navigation on my iPad. When I arrived, I was amazed. This was the old part of Ojai and had a great location. There were gardens, a black wrought iron fence, a gate, a guest house over the garage, and the house itself looked like it was worth millions. It was old, stucco, 3 stories high, and I felt awkward. I parked on the street, rang the gate, and she let me go. I walked past the fountains, the explosion of flowers everywhere, the large koi pond, and walked up to the front door. There was a green Jaguar E-Type from the 60s parked in front of the garage. The doorbell sounded a deep and resonant ding-dong, and when she answered the door, I was paralyzed. Her hair has always been great. She had a mane of dark, luxurious curls with brown highlights. She wore a purple dress that left her shoulders bare, her smooth brown skin on display, and it plunged boldly into the deep cleavage between her breasts, which were always impressive. Now they seemed even more magnificent than the last time I saw her. The dress was short, and she wore taller strappy heels that wrapped around her calves, showing off a mile of gorgeous brown legs. She saw my gaze and laughed, making a small turn so that I could appreciate the full effect. God, she was so beautiful. Did I pass? She asked. I was able to unfreeze enough to speak. Don't look for compliments, Jacinta. You know what you look like. You're still the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. This was the correct answer. She rushed towards me and hugged me tightly for a long moment. God, it's so good to see you, Dax. I've missed you so much. Hey, I brought you something, I said. She looked into the gift bag, reached through the fabric, and pulled out the box. She opened it and let out a little squeal of joy. "I can't believe you remember that." It cost me a kiss on the cheek and more than one hug. It was a good investment. I petted her and she purred and then backed off. "Let me grab my purse," she said. I booked us into the boathouse on Hendry Beach. She returned to the house and I looked around. The entrance area had a winding staircase, apparently made of marble, that led to all 3 floors. Between the 2 windows stood a tall grandfather clock, and from the ceiling hung a huge chandelier that seemed to be covered in gold. Everything about this place spoke of luxury. She returned a few seconds later, and we held hands as we walked out to the gate. "Are you sure you want to ride in my Jeep?" I asked. She laughed. "What, do you think I'm too pretty to ride in a Jeep? I'm all more the same as Jacinta." I chuckled. "Well, you look too smart for a Jeep, and damn it, Jacinta, by the looks of it, you're doing very well." She looked at me and laughed. Her face glowed and her snow-white teeth sparkled. "Not bad, right? You did great, my girl." "What are you doing?" I asked when we got into the Jeep. "I'm currently finalizing a real estate deal near Lake Casitas," she said. "Once I get the city's signature, this will be a very big moneymaker for me. The real estate here is crazy, Dax." "I can imagine," I said. "Tell me about your life." "It will be like a big book," she said. "Damn, how long has it been? Look, I moved to West Covina, became an agent at a big firm, and worked really hard. I made a lot of money, I got really lucky, and I opened my own agency." She thought about it. "I don't have enough time to tell you everything before we get to the restaurant. Tell me about yourself. I know you have children." "Yes," I told her. I turned on my iPad, used Face Unlock, and she flipped through my photo albums. "Oh my God, your girls are amazing," she said. "Is it your wife?" "Ex-wife," I replied. "We've been divorced for almost 3 years." "I didn't know. Sorry if this is a touchy subject." I shrugged. It was. You can't walk around forever and be depressed. I'm fine, really, and it's not hard for me to talk about it. "Are you married, Jacinta? I noticed that you don't wear a ring." "No, I didn't make that mistake. I was in a long-term relationship, but we never got married. I'm kind of like you, only that was 4 years ago for me, and I can't say I like talking about this. Are you close to your daughters?" "Very," I replied. "I invited them to travel with me, and they wanted to, but they have a hell of a lot to do. I think they'll fly over and spend a few days with me as soon as they get the chance, and then come back." She smiled at me, blinding me again. "That's so sweet," she said. "Do you have children?" I asked. "No, just me," she replied. "I always thought I would be a terrible mom. My mom is wonderful, and she set the bar too high. I could never be like her." We arrived, and she took my arm as we walked inside. After our food arrived, she chatted incessantly, as she always did when she was a child. The guy I was in a relationship with was a real estate agent at another firm, she said. "We talked about him joining my company, but one thing after another happened, and we were never able to do it. And then," she looked at me seriously, "this is the part I don't like talking about." I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "It's okay, Jacinta. You don't need to talk about it." "No, I need it," she said. "I was working with him on a large development project, and I discovered that he was deceiving me. He overspent on a large piece of land and didn't do his homework." "Wow, that doesn't sound very good," I said. "It was terrible. Right in the middle of the piece of land we needed was 200 acres owned by the city. They sold it to him, but it was a donation from an estate that came to the city with the condition that it could not be developed for 50 years. It had to remain a natural reserve. And now he found himself with millions invested in something that he could not sell and could not develop." "What's happened?" I asked. "He tried to convince me to invest, told me a bunch of lies about how he was going to get around the problem. This would never have happened. He resorted to fraud, tried to bribe people, got caught, and went to prison. Luckily, I always felt that something was wrong here, so I didn't go any further to investigate the problem before everything blew up. "What have you done?" I asked. "After Bob went to jail, I sold my agency and moved back home," she said. "It was the best decision I've ever made. And look, here you are. Definitely the best decision I've ever made." "I was shocked when I saw you," I admitted. She smiled. "Me too. Happy." "God, yes, Peach. It was so unexpected. I had no idea you were back. I was just planning on hanging around old places, reminiscing about old times, and then heading down the coast." "How long will you stay here?" she asked. "Well, I don't have any definite plans until the fall semester starts," I replied. "Even then, all my classes will be online, and I have one engineering consulting job in December." "Dax, if I put off all but the most essential meetings, can I spend time with you?" she asked. The beautiful face blushed slightly. "That is, if you don't mind, if you don't have plans." "I have plans," I said, and her face fell. "Each of them will be better if I spend them with you." Her eyes sparkled. "Really? I mean, oh yeah, let's do whatever you have planned." She was so excited I had to laugh. "You haven't changed at all, Jacinta." "Oh, but I've changed," she said. "I'm smarter now." She lowered her voice to a deep whisper. "Now I sometimes have hair growing in strange places too." I laughed out loud. Our laughter attracted the attention of other visitors after this joke. It was so much fun spending time with this amazing woman. She was funny, incredibly smart, and sexy as hell. As I walked her to the door, she chatted non-stop, planning when and where she could go with me. She hugged me at the door, holding me tightly. The warmth, the smell, and this hug lasted a long time. She stood on her tiptoes to kiss me and was carried away. I swear the next 2 weeks were the best time of my life. Only with my girls have I ever had such pleasure. Jacinta was like a breath of fresh air. I didn't even realize how monotonous my life with Tessa had become. I became comfortable, complacent, and apparently the established order of things took over. Perhaps Tessa felt the same way, but this was new and exciting. It wasn't really new. It was like when I was a kid, walking home from school with my best friend who happened to be a beautiful girl that I loved, and everyday life was sparkling and new. I wondered if this would last, if the new shine would fade, and if everything would settle back to normal. I started noticing things. Never been a particularly sensitive person. I may have missed a lot of things, but this was special. I began to notice how Jacinta was looking at me. Those huge brown eyes with flecks of gold and green, turning to golden honey in the sunlight, looked at me in a way I had never seen before. I noticed that she was always looking for an opportunity to hold my hand. I noticed that if we walked or sat together in a place where this was possible, she would press herself against me, seeking physical contact. When I hugged her, she instantly pressed herself, as if she wanted to be as close as possible. I definitely wanted her around. That much was obvious. The 2 weeks I said I would stay turned into 3, and I had no intention of leaving. Jacinta never mentioned what I said about 2 weeks, and she didn't mention me leaving. We spent almost every day together, and she always made sure we had a plan for next time before she drove me home or I drove her. It was almost 2 months later. We had been touring antique stores all day, and she invited me in when I dropped her off at home, which surprised me. We were sitting snuggled up on her sofa, watching some old kung fu show that neither of us had watched, drinking a very nice single malt whiskey she had, and I noticed that she had stopped saying anything or answering me. I turned to see if something was wrong, and she was looking at me, her eyes like liquid pools and her bottom lip caught between her teeth. I hugged her and asked, "Is something wrong, Peach?" "No, yes, maybe," she said. I laughed. "Well, that certainly clears things up." "Dax, We've been together for a while now. I think you're only staying because of me, right? True, I replied. Why? That's what I need to know. Do we have something, Dax? I mean, are we just old friends, or are you just hanging out with a friend? Well, it started like this, I began. What do you think is going on? This is more than friendship to me, Dax. I remember all the good times, how much I loved you, and you're still the same guy I loved then, only better. Why didn't you ask me out then, Dax? Damn, Jacinta, you were my best friend. I wanted to invite you, believe me, but I was afraid things would get weird, especially if you didn't want to come with me and I would lose you. I couldn't risk it. That wouldn't be weird, she said. I wanted you to invite me, Dax. I tried everything I could think of to get you to notice me. You never did. I would have invited you, but I was afraid too. Is it true? I asked. Really? She whispered. I loved you with all my heart, Dax. I just finally accepted that we weren't meant to be together, that you loved me, but not like that. Oh my God, Peach, you couldn't be more wrong, I said. I guess I was just as careless. You were my dream. I walked around in a fog, always wanting you to be mine. Do you still want it? She asked. Do you mean? I want you, Dax. God, I'm burning with desire for you. I've used up the entire city's batteries. We laughed together. If you just leave and I never see you again, I think you should leave now, Dax. You're making me fall in love with you all over again, and if you're not ready here with me, I can't be this close to you anymore, you. I pulled her towards me. Her head fell on my shoulder, and my arms wrapped around her. I buried my face in her waves and curls, whispering in her ear, "What a fool believes." "Eh?" she purred. "This is a song. What you believe becomes your reality, even when it isn't. Like a fool, I believed you were unattainable. I let you go." She pressed herself against my shoulder. "I was a fool too," she said. "I don't want to be a fool anymore." We made love. I was just passing by, I told her. I didn't even realize you were here, didn't think I'd ever find you or see you again. I was just drifting. Peach, I never dreamed I'd find you. No, neither do I, she said. Now that you've found me, will you lose me again? Not if I can avoid it, I said. I'll stay. You can come with me. Hell, I don't know. I just want you to have a place in my life. Is there a place for me in your life? She laughed, an exciting sound. No, but I'll make room. How long can you stay here? Really, Dax? Indefinitely, I told her. I mean, I can really stay here. I have work that needs to be done in December. I have a house. I love my girls, Jacinta. They are a huge part of my life. I know, she whispered. We can work this out if we try, Dax. Let's let this work itself out. I remembered when I was 20 and the excitement never seemed to end. Even if I got lucky, it was like I was transported back. I wondered if it would slow down eventually, but I was on this trip and had no intention of getting out. She worked, showed properties, got listings, did everything she did, and dragged me along to some of these events. She was good, very good, and I understood why she was so successful. My online classes started and I taught for a while, but most of the time we were together. 1 week followed another, and the first thing I realized was that 4 months had passed. Tori and Talitha were pestering me when I got home, and I think they knew something was wrong. They kept asking me what I was doing in California for so long, and although I didn't try to hide anything from them, I wanted to tell them about Jacinta face to face. It got out of hand for me when one day while I was in class, I got an alert on my phone. It was a photograph of Talitha. Dad, I'll come to you for a week. I'm leaving for Los Angeles on Wednesday at 1:00 p.m. Will you pick me up? Of course, doll. Cannot wait, I sent it back. I couldn't just tell her when she arrived, so I talked to Jacinta. Girls, Toledo will come to me for a week. Oh, she said. Dex, you have to tell them. I'm not going to hide for a week. I can't not see you for a week. And besides, I want to meet them. I know how much you love them. They sound like girls I would love so much, and I can't wait to meet them. I squeezed it. I know. I also want you to meet them. I was just looking for the right time to talk to them. I was thinking about flying home for the weekend to talk to them on Zoom, so we could get to know each other a little. Do you like it? She nodded, and all those curls jumped. I agree. When do you want to do this? I'll let them know and set a time, I said. I will write on Monday evening. Do you have anything planned? I was thinking about coming here and making love to you, she said. This made me laugh. Well, maybe we can do it after the Zoom call. She giggled. Before and after. The funniest and almost incredible thing was that she was completely serious. I managed to get the girls to agree to Zoom with me, although they were very suspicious about why I wanted it and struggled to tell them about it. I dialed them. They chatted with me for a while, and I finally worked up the courage. I know I'm mysterious as hell, I said. I was planning to come back and talk to you too. You pestered me, and I brushed you off. Dad, you're not as smart as you think, and we're not as stupid as you think, Tori said. Yes, that, Talita squeaked. You met someone, right? I heard Jacinta giggle there in the kitchen. Yes, and I really think you'll like her, I said. The look on their faces was priceless. Their jaws dropped, and they sat there stunned for a minute. I tried my best to contain my extreme satisfaction at leaving them speechless for the first time in their lives. That's actually why I wanted to chat with you on Zoom, I said. Girls, I want you to meet someone. Be polite, okay? Don't let her see what a bitch you really are. There were double snorts of derision. We are waiting, Talitha said. I beckoned to Jacinta, and she came in and sat on my lap. Girls, this is Jacinta de Leon, I said. I pointed at them one by one. This is my eldest Tori and my little Talitha. Jacinta waved her hand. Hello, ladies. Jacinta was my best friend all through school, I told them. We were kind of reunited. I'll tell you the whole story later, but she's the reason I've been here so long and why I'll probably be here a lot longer. Best friend, huh? Dad, are you crazy? God, Jacinta, you are so gorgeous. What are you doing with Dad? Tori fired. Jacinta laughed, leaned over and whispered into the microphone. He's great in bed. Ugh, Talitha made a disgusted face. Let's talk about something else. She was laughing. I can't believe you said that. Jacinta, we will love you, I can tell. You're so gorgeous, just like Tori said. You know we're Daddy's gatekeepers, right? Jacinta nodded. I would think less of you if you weren't. I love him. Girls, I think I always loved him, but one day I let him leave. It was partly his fault, but I will do everything possible to make him a part of my life. But I don't want you to think that I'm taking him away from you. Well, I don't like the idea of him being in Gotham, California all the time, Tori said. We need to see him too, Jacinta. I know, and we'll figure something out. I understand, believe me, Jacinta said. I have things to do that I'm not ready to talk about yet, even with Dax. I'm so glad Talita is coming. I can't wait to meet her, and you too, Tori. Do you think you can come? I'll do it, Tori said. I'll take the weekend. I don't want to take your father or any part of him away from you, she said. Jacinta, I want to be a part of his life and also a part of your life. I want to love you and for you to love me. There were tears in her eyes, and the girls saw what she was going through. Oh, everything will work out, Jacinta, Talitha said. We'll make it work. Tori and I are good at making it work. I laughed. They don't lie, I told Jacinta. They are annoying little devils, but they have owned my heart all their life and protected it. I believe you, especially about the devils. The girls giggled and engaged Jacinta in conversation, asked her a million questions. told her embarrassing jokes about me, and we made the most of our 40-minute session. After we finished, I leaned back and just held Jacinta in my lap. "Well, these are my children," I said. "Impression?" "They're adorable," she said. "I love them already. They're great. They have the same wry sense of humor, but from a female point of view." I pretended to be shocked. "Don't look at me like that," she said. "You know what you are like." When Talitha arrived, Jacinta thought I should pick her up alone, just to start our daddy-daughter friendship, so I picked her up and took her to Hollywood. When she came out of the gate, my breath caught. I forgot how beautiful my baby is. She came running, rushed at me, and almost knocked me down. She was hard. She hugged me and dragged me to get her luggage. Walking next to me, I realized how tall she was. Just yesterday, she seemed to be a tiny girl, but now she has grown up and turned into a spectacular woman. How did this happen? She was usually a little calmer around other people than Tori, but she never acted like that around me. She talked non-stop during our burgers and in the Jeep the whole way. She had a million things she wanted to share and a million questions she wanted answered. She wasn't tired yet by the time we arrived at the camper. She made fun of me for not giving her the bedroom, but when I showed her how the desk was put away and how the second bed worked, she was delighted. We just hung out for a couple of hours, and then I told her that Jacinta had invited us to dinner. She was very excited, kicked me out to shower and change with a little privacy, and when she texted me that she was ready, I came back. I also changed clothes and used the camping facilities, so we got into the Jeep. Talita carried on a continuous conversation about the landscapes and areas we passed, and she became increasingly impressed the closer we got to Jacinta's house. I drove up to the gate and entered the combination. Talitha was wide-eyed when we pulled in. "Dad, does your girlfriend live here? You're cooler than I thought." I laughed. "She's a big real estate developer. You would never have guessed it when we were in school. She's Hispanic, in case you hadn't noticed, and her parents came here from Honduras 5 years before she was born. Her dad worked in an almond factory, plantation, eventually becoming a manager, and her mom owned a small tamale store when we were kids. She did it all herself." Wow, Talitha was impressed. We parked and went into the back. Jacinta was in the kitchen, and as soon as we walked in, she and Talita looked at each other for a second. I was worried, but they both burst into huge smiles and rushed to hug. "What are you cooking?" Talitha asked. "Smells amazing." "Our main course will be quite spicy," Jacinta explained. "Do you like spicy food, Talitha?" "Oh yes," replied Talitha. "Jacinta, you can call me Tully if you want. Tori always does, and so does Dad sometimes." "Thank you, honey, but I like Talitha. I can change that, but is that okay with you?" Talitha laughed. "Of course not. Tell me more about spicy food." Jacinta came over and kissed me before she and Talitha walked over to the stove, standing side by side. Jacinta opened the oven, and an aroma came out that made her mouth water. "It's lamb ribs with a lot of spices," she explained. "We take the meat off the bones and put it on tortillas with pico, brown rice, and refried beans." "Dax, you should go out and find some avocados. I haven't picked them in a couple of days, so there should be a lot." "Oh, God," Tully exclaimed. "You just go out and pick avocados." Jacinta laughed. "Yes, I have a lot of trees," she said. "I want to go," Talitha said. "Do you need help here, Jacinta?" "No, everything is ready except peeling and slicing the avocados," she said. "Go with your father, and I'll set the table." I took a basket and Talitha, and I walked around the area picking ripe avocados. "This place is amazing," she told me, "and Jacinta is even more beautiful and sweet in person. You're doing great, Dad." I laughed. "Thank you, doll. I'm glad you like her. I love her, you know." "Yes, I see," she said. "She loves you too. I can see it in the way she looks at you." Dinner tasted as good as it smelled. Sitting at Jacinta's huge table with two of the most beautiful women on the planet wasn't bad. I volunteered to do the dishes, and when I was done, Jacinta and Talitha were snuggled up on the sofa with Jacinta's laptop, talking about something. They closed the laptop as I approached, and Jacinta patted the sofa between them, moving so I could sit. "Oh, I see you're up to something," I said. "What?" Tally said. "He's getting paranoid, Jacinta. It happens to older people, I think." Jacinta laughed. "Hey, we're the same age." "Yes, but you're not paranoid," Talitha said. "Neither am I said. "I know you. You've been plotting against me your whole life." "Yes, but every plot I made was for your good," she said. "We made plans, they made plans without me, and we played a couple of games before heading back to the camper." Talitha kept winking at me until I started to get nervous. "What?" I asked. "I like her, Dad," she said. "You are lucky." "I know, right?" I answered. "You better not let her get away," she said. "It's a good thing I'm here, otherwise you'd be in trouble." "Ha! The fact that you're here is probably the problem. But seriously, I'm glad you're here, doll, and I knew you'd love her." She thought for a minute. "Dad, how do you think Mom will react?" "Well, since it's none of her business, and I don't plan on seeing her or asking her, I don't care," I said. "I've seen her a few times," she said. "And Tori too. What do you want me to tell her when she asks about you?" "Do you think she'll ask?" She nodded. "Yes, she always asks." "I didn't know," I said. "Are you lying to her?" She laughed. "No, but I don't tell her much about you. I'll just say you're fine and then move the conversation to something else. I'll probably just say you've met someone if I have to. Explain." "Do what you need to do," I told her. "I trust you. You're smarter than me." "Yes, I'm smarter." She laughed and smiled at me the way she had smiled since she was a little girl and first stole my heart. We had a wonderful week, sometimes just my daughter and I, sometimes the three of us, and a few times they went out and did things without me. When Talitha returned to Austin, they had already planned their next meeting. Tori flew back for a weekend 3 weeks later, and her reaction to Jacinta was no less positive than Talitha's. Everything was going well for us. I stayed until it was time to go to my consulting job. I talked to Tori and Talitha, as well as Jacinta, and we agreed to make it a little working holiday. Jacinta and I flew to Tarawa, and the girls arrived the next evening. I worked during the day, and they did the tourist stuff, and we spent the evenings in this tropical paradise. By the time we left, I had 3 very tan girls, and Tori and Talitha had become best friends with Jacinta. I had to move back to Austin to work in the office. It was supposed to take about 2 weeks, and Jacinta flew in for the second weekend. The girls picked her up on Friday morning, and she spent the day with them until I was free. We met for dinner, and Jacinta stayed with me. On Sunday evening, we were planning to take the girls and go out. Unfortunately, on this day, their mother decided to make one of her rare and unplanned visits. She knew very well that if she had warned them in advance, they would have been busy, so she always tried to catch them by surprise. She was at their apartment when Jacinta and I arrived, and it was awkward as hell. Tori introduced Jacinta as Daddy's girl, and you could see the shock on Tessa's face. They tried to kick Tessa out, saying we had plans, but she didn't want to leave. "So how did you meet Dax?" she asked Jacinta. Jacinta winked at me. "Oh, I was seated opposite him in math class," she said. Tessa looked stunning. "Do both of you go to class?" she asked. I laughed. "No, that was when we were 10 years old." "You've known each other since you were 10? Tessa was confused. "How is it that I have never heard of you or met you before?" "We somehow lost track of each other," Jacinta said. "We just found each other again this year." Tori interrupted this awkward event. "Well, we'd love to chat, Mom, but we have plans." Tessa snorted with displeasure, but Tori firmly led her out the door. The look on her face could curdle milk. "Sorry," Talitha said to Jacinta. "I know it was awkward. She arrived about 5 minutes before you and didn't want to leave." Jacinta laughed. "It's okay. It was bound to happen sooner or later. Since I'm going to stay in your life, I'll be there." At dinner, and then at home afterwards, where the girls accompanied us, we had a long conversation. I think this has been in our thoughts for a long time, but no one wanted to touch on it. Talitha started the conversation. It seems to me that she and Tori were up to something and Talitha was chosen as the official representative. "Dad, what are your immediate plans, and what are your long-term plans?" she asked. "About what, doll?" I asked. "Well, are you going to live in an RV in California for the rest of your life, or do you have something in mind?" I laughed. "No, I'm not planning on living in a camper van for the rest of my life. Jacinta and I haven't really discussed long-term plans." "Do you mind if we stay while you discuss this?" Tori asked. I looked at Jacinta. "I don't mind," she said. "I know how much your father cares for you. I know how much you care for him. You also know that I love him, and I'm not going to let him go." Tori nodded. "Yes, we know that." "We don't want you to live so far from us," Talitha said. "Dad, I was talking to some people I know at work, and Jacinta and I discussed this too. I'm going to get my broker's license, and Jacinta and I will open a real estate agency here." I looked at Jacinta. "Really? You sneaky little one. You didn't say a word." She laughed. "Yes, Dax, I'm going to keep my business in Ajay, but Talita and I agree that this is a huge market opportunity and I have an idea. Well, the girls and I came up with it together." "I've got all my attention," I said. "I don't know what you want," she said, "but I want you around all the time. I want you to live with me in Ajay 6 months a year. I'll hire an office manager and we'll spend 3 months a year here. Talitha will handle most of our business. Do you like it?" "Well, yes, I like it, but it's only 9 months," I said. "I want to spend the remaining 3 months on Tarawa." It was a surprise, but I was in love with this place. As a co-owner of the resort, I could arrange this, so that's what we did. It didn't quite work that way because we were regularly interrupted by trips back to Austin when we were in Ajay and vice versa due to Jacinta's need to run errands. But that was the general schedule. We didn't allow anything to interfere with our time on Tarawa, and Tori and Talitha spent a lot of time with us while we were there. Everything was going well until life, as usual, threw us another challenge. We were in Austin for 3 months, and one day Talitha sent me a message. "Hey Dad, C&D. Checking inspection schedules for interstate bridges in Ohio." "Chand," I answered. "Just finished looking at a commercial property," she replied. "Can we have lunch?" "Late lunch. Like at 1 o'clock?" I asked. "Can I? Ikiami at 1 o'clock." "I will be there." I finished my business, and when I walked in, the hostess showed me to a table. I was surprised to see another girl next to Talita. I kissed Talitha on the cheek, sat down, and the waiter took my drink order. "Dad, this is Campbell Martin," Talitha introduced her. "This is my girlfriend." I must have looked like an idiot. I definitely felt shocked, and I know I looked stunned. Campbell clearly didn't like it. She grabbed her bag. "The hell with it, Tully. Let me go. I don't need this," she said. "Wait, Campbell. Please," Talitha began. "Please, I'm sorry," I said quickly. I never. Is it because I'm gay or because I'm black?" She threw it to me. "Neither," I was in despair. My reaction was stupid. "Campbell, I never knew. Talitha never told me she liked women. You just dropped a bomb, and now you're offended that I was shocked." "It's my fault," Talitha said. "Sorry about the way I did it, Dad." "Just calm down, Campbell. Dad's very modern." "Dad, I love both girls and men. I'm sorry I never told you. Campbell is my first girlfriend. I would have told you sooner if there was a reason." Why didn't you tell me, Talitha? Did you think I would love you less? Damn it, doll, you know you have my heart. She started crying just as the food arrived and ran into the bathroom. Damn, buddy, why did you say that? Campbell asked. Campbell, I don't know you, I said. I think if you're Talitha's girlfriend, I'll know you, but you don't know me either. Just stop the hostility, swearing, and moodiness. It's not helping. She looked into my eyes. Fuck you, she said very decisively. I laughed. This girl was bright. I pretended to be relieved. Seriously, Campbell, don't you think that if you're the wrong gender, that's what you'll tell your parents? I have no idea, she said. I don't have parents, but you have no idea either. You don't know how people react when you tell them you're the wrong gender. Even the people you think love you. It's not easy. I don't know about parents, but tell me, if you have a secret from someone you really love and don't want to hurt or disappoint them, even just a little bit, would you tell them something and risk being hurt? I have no idea, I admitted. I don't know what I ever said or did to make Talitha feel like she couldn't trust me with everything. But maybe I wasn't as available as I should have been. Talitha is back and she put on some makeup, so it wasn't clear that she was crying. I grabbed her hand and pulled her towards me as she walked by, holding her close to me. I love you with all my heart, I told her. You're my doll and nothing in the world will change that. Now go sit next to your girl. She kissed me and went to sit next to Campbell. Sorry, Dad, SHH, I said. It's all in the past. We'll never discuss it again. Now tell me how you met Campbell. She smiled. She was a pitcher at Florida State University. We met while playing in a tournament there. Love at first sight, huh? I asked. Campbell laughed. For me, yes. But she had a boyfriend, so we were just friends. We were friends all this time until I got a job and moved here. What are you doing? I asked, if you don't mind telling me. I don't mind, she said. I'm a software developer. While we were talking, I watched Campbell out of the corner of my eye. She was damn attractive, no doubt about it. Her hair was stunning, a mass of shiny black curls cascading down in a straggly mess, reaching down to the middle of her back. Her face was that exotic beauty you see, huge brown eyes turned up at the outer corners and almond-shaped. Her eyelashes were fake and too long, but the rest of her makeup was flawless. I didn't like the way she was dressed. It looked provocative. In my opinion, there was too much skin on display. She clearly wasn't wearing a bra, and her short cow spot skirt barely covered what looked like a fantastic ass. She was obviously as fit as Talitha. It was evident throughout the smooth brown skin she showed off. She looked at Talitha and rolled her eyes. He's examining me, she said. Did I pass the test? I couldn't help but laugh. You're a beautiful woman, Campbell. You don't need my confirmation. I thought I was invisible, but apparently you noticed. No, if I were your father, you wouldn't pass the test. You're gorgeous, but you're too open. Screw it. Who cares? Luckily, you're not my father. I'm Campbell. You asked him, Talitha said. She laughed. I like the way she looks, Daddy. I raised my hands in surrender. That's all that matters, I said. The conversation went quite well after this difficult start, and we parted on a friendly note. Tori came over the next evening, just to spend time with her old man, and she challenged me. I told her that I had met Campbell. Tori, did you know about her? I mean, did you know that Talitha loves both men and women? She sighed. Yes, Dad. I always knew it, and before you start, if you told me a secret and asked me not to tell her, I wouldn't blurt it out either. Yes, I understand, love. How well do you know Campbell? Pretty good, she said. Tally talked about her a lot in college. She was a little shady. I know she had a steady girlfriend and she got caught cheating. Talitha didn't like it very much, and they didn't talk for a while. Wow, I didn't know, I said. That doesn't sound good to me. Dad, she's a grown woman, she said. Let her live her life. I know that, but if I thought you were dating some guy who cheated. A sudden thought stopped me. Tori, you don't. She laughed. No, Dad. Well, maybe I'm a little nosy under the right circumstances, but if I'm looking for a lifelong partner, it'll be a guy. We spent time together, and then she went home. Jacinta came, and I told her about my day. She seemed a little strange when I told her about meeting Campbell. Oh, God, I said. Don't tell me you knew too. She was clearly uncomfortable. Yes, Dax, I knew. Talitha told me that she was going to meet you and tell you everything today. Why am I the last to know important things about my daughter? I asked. You're a man, she said, laughing. Girls are more comfortable talking to other women. Well, I don't know what to think about this, I said. Do you know that she had a long-term girlfriend and cheated on her? Tori told me, she said. Does this bother you? Dax, they're 25 years old. Were they 19, 20 when this happened? Jesus, Jacinta, because she was young, is cheating okay? She looked a little annoyed. I didn't say that. Did you make mistakes when you were 20? Yes, a lot, I said. Cheating wasn't one of them. Things got a little tense for a few days, and then I really found myself in hot water. I told Talita I was worried about her, especially about Campbell. You know how devastating it was when your mom cheated, I told her. She flashed at me. Yeah, I know. I'm the one who told you, remember? So you think that because Mom is the way she is, Campbell will be the same? Damn, Dad, that pisses me off. She left and did not answer my messages or calls. I had a full portion when Jacinta returned home in the evening. What did you say to Talita? She asked. Did she tell you? I asked. Yes, she did. She came to our office crying. Damn, Dax, why did you open your mouth? Because I'm worried about my daughter. I was annoyed that Jacinta didn't seem to understand this. It's weird for you to show it, she countered. No, it's not weird. It's cruel and evil. Just because you're traumatized by what Tessa did, you should treat Campbell like that? She's a sweet girl, Dax. She's changed, and you should give her a chance and stop interfering. What do you think you're doing? My voice was louder in anger for the first time since we had been together. You're interfering, and she's not even your daughter. She looked at me as if I had hit her. You're an asshole, she said quietly. How can you tell me this? She really is my daughter. Ask her. I know you have scars, Dax, but to express this to me or Talita, to say this to me, is just petty and evil. She walked away, her back tense and angry. I heard her doing something in the bedroom for about an hour and a half. I sat and seethed, and when she came out, she had suitcases with her. What are you doing? I asked. I'm going back to Ajay, she said. When you pull your head out of your ass, call me. Her eyes were full of tears, and she could barely speak. I'm not staying here with you when you're like this. She left, and I sat there stunned. What the heck? How did the situation escalate so badly? Why couldn't she understand my point of view? Why couldn't Talita? I moped around the rest of the day and didn't sleep well that night. Memories of a wounded look. Jacinta haunted me in my dreams. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I was in a fog. I ate some cereal, too depressed to do anything else. At 10, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I looked out, it was Campbell. Damn, she was the last person I wanted to see. I sighed and opened the door. She rushed past me into the hallway. We need to talk, she said. I want coffee, strong coffee, black. I stood there like a mannequin. Dax, either give me some coffee or you, and I will come right here, she said. I'm mad as hell at you, but I understand, man. Now do you want to throw up your hands or give me coffee and talk to me? I had to laugh. This girl was crazy, stunningly beautiful in her little top and ripped jeans, and she was fierce. Then it's coffee, I said. Please don't hurt my ass, Campbell. She smiled at me. You know, I could. I'm a damn good kickboxer. Somehow this doesn't surprise me, I said. I have blue mountain beans from Jamaica. I haven't tried them yet. Do you want to try? Do you like good coffee? Yes, she said. I would like to have a coffee grinder. You know, Dax, I've always wanted to own a coffee shop, not like franchising. She sat at the bar and talked to me as I ground beans and used a Rocket R58 portafilter to make us cups, telling me all about her dream coffee shop. I sat down opposite her at the counter and we drank coffee. It was good and she approved. She put the cup down and cupped her face in her hands, resting her elbows on the counter, and God, she was gorgeous. Our faces were about 2 feet apart, and her huge brown eyes, so dark they seemed almost black, were fixed on mine. Dex, you screwed up, she said. I chuckled. No doubt, I said, but how exactly this time? Talitha is so upset about you, she said. Me too, for that matter. The point is that she doesn't understand you. I understand. You understand? I was surprised and had no idea what it was about me that she got it. Yes, she nodded. Your wife, Tally's mom, cheated on you. Talitha told you this, I asked. She said. Did she tell you that she was the one who found out how devastated she was? Yes. She also told me how devastated you were. Okay, what are you talking about, Campbell? You see your girl. She's with me, and I know Tori told you about me, about what I did. And what do you think? I guess you think I'll cheat on her, she said. You think I'll break her heart, and you resent it because of what your wife did to you. I think she got me. What is your plan for this? I asked. I'm going to get to know you, let you get to know me. I'll tell you about me, what it's like to be me. Okay, well, you're off to a good start, I told her. I am fine. She gave me one of her dazzling smiles, her teeth impossibly white on her dark face. Dax, I know what I look like, okay? Men and boys have been hitting on me since I grew breasts. When they found out I liked girls, women started hitting on me. I can imagine. You're a beautiful girl, Campbell. Her face turned slightly red. Thank you. I don't know what Tolly told you about women's college athletics. There are many gay athletes, especially in softball. I think there were a lot of gay girls on my team, and they had everyone they could at any time. Are you with me? Yes, I think. I mean, I didn't know any of this, but I believe you. Well, imagine. I was in my second year, and in my first year, I was almost a woman of easy virtue. Then I got involved with another girl. She was a track and field athlete. We were together the entire second year of study. I cheated on her, and, as far as I know, she didn't cheat on me. What's happened? I asked. Well, I was invited to the camp. It was truly prestigious, Dax. Only elite players were invited. It was led by 2 softball legends. It was a huge opportunity, and I took advantage of it. You played baseball in college. Talitha told me that. Yes, I doubt I was as good at baseball as you were at softball. I know I've never been as good as Talitha. Not that many people, she said, but imagine, who was your favorite professional player? Probably Cal Ripken Jr., maybe Don Mattingly, I said. Okay, imagine that the 2 of them invited you to a professional camp. How impressed were you by them? Very, I said. They were legends. They were my heroes growing up. Well, it was the same with me, but this is where the script gets a little twisted. I was 20 years old, Dax. Here are these 2 hot women that I've idolized my whole life, and they're teaching me, showing me so many things that have made me a better player. Then I realized that they were not only interested in me as a player. Do you understand where this leads? I think so, I said. You have to use your imagination here, she said. I know you wouldn't be sexually attracted to the baseball players you idolized, but can you imagine they were beautiful women? That's what it was for me. They took me to great restaurants. They took me to clubs. They took me to great music venues. They surrounded me with all the press. Dax. It was like an addiction when they saw me with them, telling me what a great player I was, how cool I was, and all these wonderful things they could help me. I was just young, Dax. I know it still seems that way to you, but I was slutty and loved sex. I thought my girlfriend would never find out, and I was weak and stupid. I let them seduce me. I saw tears gather in those huge brown eyes and begin to flow down her face. She broke my heart, and I realized how painful it was to tell me about it. It became clear to me that she was telling me this because she loved Talitha. She understood how much my daughter meant to me, how much I meant to Talitha, and she was opening herself up to me, showing me her vulnerability, because she needed to, so that I would believe her. I needed to end this pain because I caused it. I grabbed the tissues from the box on the counter, walked around, handed her the tissues, pulled her to her feet, and hugged her. She was tough as a steel pole at first and seemed to just put up with it. I held her close to me and spoke in a low voice. Campbell, I'm so sorry. Please, I don't need to hear any more. I got it, okay? I'm sorry that I made this necessary, and I know how brave you are and how painful it is for you to come here and tell me. Please forgive me. I felt her melt in my arms, and she clung to me, sobbing her heart out. I just held her and whispered that everything was going to be okay, that I was going to make things right, and how I was sorry that I didn't really give her a chance. After a while, she calmed down, and I took her into the living room to the sofa. She snuggled up to me, and we talked for hours. It was dinner time, and I was cooking for her. She helped me by bumping into me, and despite all the differences in her, big and small, it felt like one of my daughters was with me. We drank 2 bottles of wine, and she was one of those happy, giggling drunks. She stayed the night, slept in Talita's room, and in the morning she called Tally and invited her to come to my house for breakfast. When Talita came in, we were making pancakes, chatting pleasantly about nothing, standing side by side at the stove, with Campbell hugging me with one arm. Tally rushed through the kitchen and squeezed between us, kissing me on the cheek and Campbell on the lips. "What are you doing here, Campbell?" she asked. "What? How? Dad?" "She came to enlighten your poor, stupid father," I said. "Doll, I am very sorry for the way I behaved. I understand why you love Campbell, and I know how much she loves you. Would you forgive me?" She pressed herself close to me. "I love you, Daddy. I will always love you," she said. "It's easy for me to forgive you. Dad, I need to apologize to you, too. I thought you were just a jerk." We both looked at her. "Well, I thought so, and you thought so, too." Campbell straightened my head. "Jacinta thought so, too. I know you love me, and you thought you were looking out for me. You just need to work on your communication skills. Me, too. I should have trusted you, Dad, a long time ago, and I'm sorry I didn't answer your calls. I'm afraid you have more important work to do with Jacinta." "I know. I'm afraid I said something very rude to her." "I know. She told me." "What?" Campbell asked. "She didn't tell me." "I told her Tally was my daughter, not hers," I said. Campbell made some sort of clucking sound at me. "I don't think Tally feels that way at all, and neither does Jacinta." "I guess technically you were right," Talitha said. "But you are terribly mistaken about this. I'm closer to her than I ever was with my mother. I wish she was my mom, and you need to apologize to her." "What she said." Campbell grinned at me. "I hope you like the taste of crow, dude, because you're going to eat a whole bunch of them." We all laughed, finished making pancakes, and had a great morning. I needed to do this, and there was no point in wasting time. 2 days later, I flew to Los Angeles, rented a car, went to the florist, and bought all the roses they had. Jacinta wasn't home, so I went in, placed flowers all over the house, and was kneeling in the hallway when she came in. She was a little scared, and I managed to tell her, "I'm so sorry, Peach, please forgive me." She burst into tears, ran through the entrance as best she could, on her heels, and hugged me. She pressed her cheek to the top of my head, and all those curls covered me like a veil. I hate being mad at you, she said. I'm sorry too, Dax. I know you meant well, and it must have seemed like we were all conspiring against you. We need to communicate better, all of us. I ate that crow. We flew back to Austin and took all the girls whitewater rafting in Colorado. This was my family, and I decided that Campbell would be part of my family too. I had a daughter, a fierce brown jungle cat girl, but we were family. They were with us in Tarawa the night I proposed to Jacinta, 3 years later. I told them about the plan, and they had something to do while we went to dinner. When I got down on one knee at the table before dessert, Jacinta's hand flew to her mouth, and she burst into tears. This threw my game off a bit, but I got ahead. She held out her hand, and I put the ring on. She pulled me to my feet and threw myself into my arms, still crying like a baby. Peach, I was hoping this would make you happy, I told her, and not cause those tears of despair. She let out a watery laugh into my shoulder. I'm happy, she said. I also cry when I'm very happy. It was just a slight twist. I thought I was in a grand slam,